Hey guys, so this is something that we talked about in sixth grade, and then I referenced it the other day during our review, but it's something I'm going to ask you explicitly to do a lot over the next couple weeks, and something that we'll do a ton in eighth grade as we get into more literary analysis in our writing. Okay, so you probably heard me reference the quote sandwich the other day. To ensure that your reader fully understands how the quote you are using supports your thesis, you must smoothly incorporate the quote into your paragraph, okay? And explain the quote, right? Your reader should not be unsure why you are using this quote. The quote should have a purpose. It shouldn't just be stuck in somewhere in a confusing way. So we want to follow our quote sandwich format. All right, so our quote sandwich, the first piece of bread is to introduce the quote. So before adding in your quote, introduce it with a signal phrase and a reporting verb. I'll get into that more in a second. So for example, Robin Lakoff argues that. Okay, then the quotation itself, the meat of the sandwich, or if you're like me, the peanut butter and jelly of the sandwich. After you have introduced your quote with a signal phrase and reporting verb, add in your quote. So example, Robin Lakoff argues that cultural bias was built into the language we were allowed to speak about and the ways we were spoken of. Okay, then the bread on the bottom of our sandwich. Explain it. Now that you've added in your quote, explain why the quote is important. What do you think it means? How does it connect with your thesis? Or any kind of claim that you're making. Maybe it's the topic sentence of that particular paragraph. Your explanation should be at least as long or longer than the quote itself. Okay. When using quotes in your writing, the ratio should always be more of your writing than of quotes. Okay. Now, introducing our quotations, we've already talked about the whole comma, colon, no punctuation thing. So this is more about the actual words you're using. To guarantee that your reader clearly follows your writing, you should introduce your quotes with a signal phrase, reporting verb, or both, as we saw in the quote sandwich, rather than simply plopping the quote into the middle of your paragraph without any explanation. Okay. If you add in the quote without an introduction, your reader doesn't understand how it connects, where it comes from, even if it makes sense to you in your head. Okay, so here are some examples of signal phrases and reporting verbs you can introduce to your quote. Okay, so some signal phrases: according to, in her article, in the opinion of so-and-so, so-and-so suggests that, so-and-so argues that, so-and-so whatever, one of our reporting verbs. So some good reporting verbs: acknowledges, agrees, believes, compares, denies, endorses, implies, observes, refutes, responds, writes, adds, argues, claims, confirms, disputes, grants, etc. I don't need you to say them all, but there's also just our general ones like for dialogue, like says, states, okay, that you can also use when talking about more dialogue type situations. All right, so some examples. Dwight Bollinger, that's our author, notes, that's my reporting verb, that in a society where farmers are regarded as inferior, occupational differences become class differences. All right, another one, Malcolm X, that's my person, okay, writes, that's my reporting verb, and then our quote. All right, so some reminders. The first time you reference an article or other text, you need to give the names or names of the author or authors, the title of the article, and the name of the magazine or book if you know it. Okay, so this is citing your source. Okay, not just putting a, citation at the end of your paper, but actually telling me which parts of your writing came from what. Okay. The first time you use a quote from an article, you need to use the author's first and last name. The next time you use a quote from that author, you can just use the last name. All right, last reminder, don't forget to add in your explanation. We've talked about how to introduce them, how to punctuate our quotes. Explaining it is the actual important part of your writing, right? Being able to explain this stuff and how it relates back to whatever claim you're making. Okay, so we're going to be looking at a lot of examples of this, practicing with this, but this is definitely something that's going to come up a lot. So I know we talked about it a little bit in sixth grade, but just wanted to give you a refresher.